Story 1. Years ago, I read an article about someone whose business was keeping ultra-rich people's cars ready to go. As in, if you have a Ferrari in multiple cities, they would keep it fueled up, have the oil changed, drive it around the block about once a week, and have it waiting at the airport when the owner flies into town. Story 2. They buy a home for their college-age children. They sell the house when their children graduate. Sometimes the sale pays for college. Story 3. There are several single-family-owned Montessori schools. Some family offices assembled entire mini-schools for their children and their friends' children. This became popular when the pandemic began. Some of these schools are entirely mobile, teaching on private jets and around the world. Story 4. Have separate sets of clothing at each house so they do not need to take more than carry-on luggage when traveling. Story 5. I live near Scottsdale among many wealthy people. They constantly remodel their vacation homes, so there is always great stuff. I bought a brand new Viking refrigerator from Craigslist. It was still wrapped. It is 8 feet tall and 36 inches wide. The homeowners decided they wanted a double refrigerator instead. They have owned the home 2 years and have not stayed a night there. The refrigerator retails for $18,000. I bought it for $1,500. Story 6. My mom's boss buys a brand new, top-of-the-range car almost every year and gives the year-old car to one of his children or other family members. I jokingly asked for one. The truth is I doubt I could even afford the insurance, let alone the maintenance and fuel. Story 7. I have several wealthy friends who are my age, in their 50s, and do not work. Their main perk is attending every concert and show, always buying front-row seats. It is not limited to our area. If their favorite band is playing across the country, they fly there with their children and spend the weekend. Story 8. I dated a woman from a very wealthy family for a couple of years. Every spring her whole family would go through their closets, donate 90% of their wardrobe, and then spend more than $20,000 on entirely new clothes for the year because they had to have the new season of everything. As someone who grew up wearing clothes until they fell apart and patching them if they still fit, this blew my mind. Getting rid of perfectly good clothes because they were last season is insane to me. Story 9. People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for golf course memberships. I photograph luxury homes in the most exclusive golf course neighborhoods in my state. I know of one neighborhood where membership runs $400,000 or more, and there is a wait list of people wanting to join. Story 10. They call boutique stores ahead of time to say they will be coming in on a specific date. The boutique high-end store pulls every very expensive item, complete with accessories, onto a rolling rack to have ready. I worked in a high-end store back in the day. If an item was on sale, they removed the sale tag and actively tried to sell the expensive pieces using layering to upsell. Story 11. Have assistants do things we would not dream of doing. I know a wealthy person who hired a personal assistant to find a parcel of land to purchase. Here are the criteria. Forested land by the sea with cliffs, a quiet area with cellular reception, and not in an area with heavy boat traffic so I can bathe while looking out at sea. Story 12. Hire a stylist to curate new designer furniture for a home that needs a refresh. Story 13. Most of my wealthy friends growing up had stocked, organized refrigerators. Someone did all the shopping and kept them tidy. Story 14. A former client of mine, sadly recently deceased, had 2 yachts moored in the south of France next to each other. One was fast and one was slow. He would take the fast one to Saint-Tropez and have the other follow because it was more comfortable. He would have lunch in one of his restaurants there, then relax on the slow yacht for the day. Sometimes he stayed overnight, sometimes not. He would take the fast yacht back to his home port. The captains would hand out thousands to get the best berths in Saint-Tropez. He used the yachts like taxis. He did the same with his house in Portofino, but that was usually a week-long trip. His recent passing made global headlines, which gives an idea of his wealth. His tax contributions to the local economy changed the small port town where he lived. He created public parks, golf and tennis courts, a horse riding club, and gym facilities, all well-maintained and fully staffed with summer programs for children. He funded improvements to roads, sidewalks, public beaches, and walking and hiking paths. He bought a disused church and turned it into a public museum. He contributed so much that public parking in the town is now free all year. That is how a trillionaire lives. Story 15. I actually know one. They have not been to a grocery store since the mid-1990s. Story 16. Flying to another country on a private jet just to eat dinner. Story 17. I once bought two $1,500 short-sleeved cashmere sweaters with sequins, so a tailor could cut up one to make sleeves because the top did not come in a long-sleeve version. I used to work for a very wealthy retired actress who had me buy the sweaters and schedule the tailor. Story 18. Their vacation homes are stocked with regionally appropriate attire, such as mountain and beach clothing. They also keep luxury vehicles at these homes that most people could only dream of owning and driving every day. Story 19. Summary. A man imported an ancient monastery door for use as the front door of his ranch home. I worked on a ranch just south of Crested Butte, Colorado. If you are not a billionaire, do not even think about buying a home there. The owner bought the front door from a Tibetan monastery and had it flown to the United States to use on his main house. It was ornately hand-carved, about 3,000 years old, approximately 12 by 6 by 2 feet, and weighed many tons. Not including the cost of the door itself, the shipping alone must have been astronomical. This was just the front door for his main house. There were more than 10 buildings on the property. I have seen and worked on many billionaire mansions throughout Colorado, and his ranch is the nicest I have ever seen. Story 20. During the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic, I worked as a private jet charter broker. A British member of the House of Lords told me, "Sod the quarantine restrictions. I need to fly to Monaco every other week to maintain my tax residency in Monaco rather than in the United Kingdom." I regularly flew a client between London and Baku, Azerbaijan, who asked if they could make a short stop in Dubai, which is not on the way, to get their passport stamped to maintain residency there. On one trip, they arrived with more than half a ton of luggage, described as, "Oh, just some stuff we picked up shopping." They were very confused when we told them that 27 boxes and suitcases would not fit on an aircraft we had repeatedly said had space for only about 10 to 12 suitcases. A Russian client asked us to call the airport on his Caribbean destination island and request that his flight not be randomly selected for coronavirus disease 2019 testing because he said he would not have time to complete quarantine if he tested positive. He did not care whether he had the virus, only that being caught with it might ruin his travel plans in July 2020. Story 21. Concierge or private specialized medical care. If they have a complex or chronic condition, such as kidney failure, they will have a dialysis unit installed in their home with a private nephrologist, or they may hire a caregiver who could become an organ donor. Cancer treatments can be arranged at home, and an MRI can be installed in the residence. Story 22. Have lobsters been flown from Maine to Japan on a private jet to impress a client? Story 23. When they wanted an addition to their house in the Hamptons, they could not get a start date from the very busy local contractors. They rented a nearby house and hired a company from Maine to move in and build the addition. They paid for about a dozen workers to live in the Hamptons until the addition was finished, which took more than a year. Story 24. Steve Jobs decided he did not like having a license plate because it allowed him to be identified and kept getting stolen. He called the Mercedes dealer and made a deal. In California, it was legal to drive a car without a license plate for 30 days after purchase. So once a month, the dealer would replace his car with an identical new Mercedes, allowing him to drive indefinitely without a plate. Story 25. I tried to take a submersible controlled by a game controller down to the Titanic. Story 26. I've been a chef for 20 years. I've dealt with this a bit. We once sold a restaurant buyout for several days so a party could drop in during their vacation with no wait. We charged $50,000 per meal service they wanted to buy out. That earned us $300,000 over 3 days. They never showed up and went to our sister restaurant across the river. In Miami, bottle service is extreme. Aside from paying $2,000 for a bottle of Grey Goose with mixers, people will spend several thousand on Ace of Spades or Cristal and put $200,000 on a black card in one night. This extends to champagne, not just for drinking but for spraying on each other and on scantily clad servers who are effectively paid a guaranteed 25% tip. There is a special champagne menu with an assortment of spray packages. You can buy one bottle of Dom Perignon to drink and spray for $1,000, or you can order entire cases of Cristal just to spray on each other for $50,000 a case. I've seen poolside bungalows order several cases for pool parties. Story 27. Buying a multimillion-dollar home near a larger multimillion-dollar home that is under construction so they can be nearby while it is built. Keeping dozens of spare current tech devices in case they lose one, do not want to pack one, or a device fails. Buying a quarry to guarantee that all stone used in their home is uniform. Story 28. Prefer to be referred to as high net worth or ultra high net worth, not rich or ultra rich. Story 29. My friend paid the fee to have a personal escort for his family at Disney World, who walked his group to the front of all the lines. I think it was $7,500 a day. Story 30. A recurring theme I notice is spending exorbitant amounts of money to avoid small inconveniences. My boss had his assistant book flights, called every restaurant for reservations, asked friends which restaurant was best, canceled all reservations except his choice, and adjusted his flights to match. He booked multiple hotels, asked friends which was best, canceled all but his choice, and rebooked flights to align with that. He also booked an extra night so he could go straight to his room on arrival without waiting for check-in. He would spend thousands of dollars extra on each trip to avoid two minor inconveniences. First, having to be organized. Second, having to wait. He paid his assistant $100,000 a year but did not trust her to book a trip to Berlin at the best hotel and restaurant and ensure he would not have to wait. Story 31. A Saudi prince bought 80 seats on a commercial flight for his falcons. Story 32. My friend was head of housekeeping for a wealthy family. Before traveling, she would take clothing and suitcases to the dry cleaners, where everything was freshly pressed, folded, and tissue paper was placed between each item, even the underwear. Story 33. Request off-menu or off-topic items. For example, call the concierge at a hotel and say you want a romantic couple set up by the pool, or hand your credit card to an usher at a theater and ask them to buy and deliver a cocktail to you. I have seen both of these happen. Story 34. Reading these comments is crazy. I feel privileged because my grandparents helped me pay rent for a couple of months while I was unemployed and job searching. My partner became homeless at 18 after fleeing domestic violence. They have no family to turn to for money, and not working was never an option unless they wanted to return to a halfway house. I sometimes get jealous of my roommate because their parent works at Kaiser Permanente, so they have good health insurance and can afford takeout often, while I cannot. In the end, the three of us share the same tiny apartment, arguing about who has it worse, while there are people who own private islands and casually fly to Paris for lunch as if it were nothing. Story 35. Have a dedicated communicator on staff whose sole responsibility is to inform the rest of the team, because you clearly cannot expect them to speak directly to everyone. Story 36. My sister-in-law's cousin's family is very rich. They have 2 basketball courts inside their house. That's how massive it is. They bought all the lots next to their mansion and built a park just for their family so they wouldn't need to be near anyone. I was looking for a bathroom when I stumbled upon the gym. I got vertigo when I walked into it. It was so large my brain couldn't understand what it was seeing at first, then slowly processed it. That experience is burned into my memory. Story 37. Back in the early 2000s, I used to work with family offices, some of which dealt with the ultra-high net worth market. Some simple things they bought that blew my mind. Business cards from companies like Black Astrum cost hundreds to thousands of dollars per card. They would buy entire sections of a bookstore. One client pointed to a whole section and said he wanted one of every book there shipped over. You can pay a bookstore to ship an entire library. Tell them you want to appear to be an expert in anthropology, and they will outfit a floor-to-ceiling library of anthropology books for you. They bought jewelry by the tray. Stores would close when these clients arrived. The wife would point at a tray in the display case and they would buy everything on it. We once received a gift of fancy Japanese apples from an ultra-high net worth client. They cost around $220 per apple. I received a box of 4 along with 10 other people in the office. They were amazing. They ask for complimentary items and often receive them. I know one woman who asked for a specific serial number for a limited edition watch and was given it for free. They also receive complimentary hotel suites, replacement phones when lost at hotels, pedicure services, and other services, likely because they spend so much and confer celebrity status. I know someone who occasionally goes through his employee list and pays off tuition or medical debts for several people. There is no regular pattern. He does it when he feels like it. Some displayed magazines like Nominous on their coffee tables. I did not realize how much of a status symbol that was until I learned that Nominous costs from $2,500 to $5,000 or more per issue. Later, I found out some wealthy people receive copies for free as a branding move. Many do not care about shopping at branded stores like Prada and Gucci. Most have tailors they know by name who make bespoke pieces. Some did not shop in retail clothing stores for 3 or 4 years at a time. Good times. Story 38. Here is the thing about that kind of wealth. It does not buy you things. Things are necessary for food and health care, but beyond that they are just stuff. What money really buys is freedom and time. Story 39. Asked my boss what he's doing for Christmas break. Family and in-laws are coming over for presents. Movie night. A friend is driving our small yacht with our private chef to our island in the Bahamas for the week, and we are flying privately to meet them. I bet they will deny my raise when I ask too. Story 40. Creating lakes for a hunting lodge community and maintaining its wildlife. Story 41. They wake up and can do whatever they want. There is no urgency and no need to work to provide for themselves. They have unlimited time and can buy artificial intelligence and services to free up their time. I want to go to the museum today, to the park, or to Costa Rica. Story 42. They sold the house fully furnished because their furniture had appreciated in value, just as the house had. Story 43. I have a friend with a private ski lift. Does that count? Story 44. Empty garages. Nothing in the garage except a car or two and a case of water. They do not have to fix anything or do yard work. Story 45. We were not wealthy, but I shared an apartment with several people in college. One of our roommates never left his room. His parents paid for an Indian woman to come every week and cook him a week's worth of fresh food. Every time she came, the rest of us were drooling and were kind of annoyed because she used the small kitchen for a few hours. He still ordered food delivery every day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, and always had the best electronics. He rarely left his room, rarely spoke to us, and did not attend class often. I thought his family must be wealthy and was trying to teach him how to live modestly in a shared space. Story 46. Be really boring. I think everyone assumes rich people have fabulous lives and do exciting things, but some of them prefer to stay home, watch movies, and play video games on their Xbox. Story 47. A girl in college was from an African country. She was the sweetest, nicest person. One morning she asked to sit with me at breakfast, and we had a fascinating conversation. She was totally down to earth. Her roommate later described her life as essentially Prince Akeem's from Coming to America. She had pet giraffes and elephants. I thought she was joking. The roommate said she referred to home as her father's country. Then she told a story about the previous week. She had decided she did not want to bum rides anymore and wanted a car. The roommate described listening to her call her father and ask for a car, and her father told her to go to the Mercedes dealership in 2 days on Saturday. He said he would arrange it. That weekend, the roommate drove her to the Mercedes dealership where the owner met this 19-year-old. He told her her father had arranged for one of every model they had, in every color they had. Whichever she did not choose, they were shipping to him. The car haulers were waiting in the lot to load them. She chose the silver S600. They shipped 33 cars to her father. Her rough estimate was somewhere around $1.5 to $2 million just for the purchase. This was the middle of America, so getting 33 cars on an international shipping vessel probably cost several $1,000s. Also, she would not have to worry or make any real decisions other than to choose and drive away. Story 48. A friend's kids wondered, who are all these people on the plane? Because they had never flown commercially before. Story 49. Why do they always assume that getting together means spending money? The majority of my friends are wealthy. They own 2 houses and vacation in another country. I barely leave my city. When we plan to hang out, they always suggest lunch or dinner. Last time I asked if we could do something that did not involve much money, like going to a park or staying in, they answered, "You can always come after dinner if you do not want to have dinner with us." It is frustrating. Story 50. The wealthiest person I know consistently invests in index funds, rarely targets individual stocks, manages their investments personally, and does not pay anyone to manage them. Story 51. Charter a private jet to take the family on vacation. This option is more for the rich than the ultra-rich who can afford personal jets. Once you have paid for first-class tickets for parents, children, and nannies, you are close to the cost of a smaller charter. You choose your travel times, skip airport security lines, avoid waiting in airport lounges, and can usually have your limousine drive up to the jet to drop off and pick up your luggage. Story 52. They can make multiple high-risk investments. If 1 in 30 succeeds, they will be well in the black. I had a friend who started a successful business. He made some risky investments. One of them is currently paying out $100,000 every year and is likely to double in the next 5 to 10 years. There were about 20 or so investments in which he lost almost his entire investment, but in 3 years he made all that money back. Now it is just profit. Story 53. Some people see something they want and can instantly buy it without even knowing or caring about the price. I see something cool online and have to consider whether it is worth the number of hours I would need to work to afford it. Story 54. I hosted a dinner at the home of a noble family in Scotland a few years ago. A few weeks beforehand, the Duke showed me around and told me a story about how depressed he was when an art appraiser, looking at one of his paintings, told him the painting was not by a student of Goya but by Goya himself. He was unhappy because the resulting €15 million increase in value meant he would have to redo his insurance paperwork. He had already used 2 different insurance companies to cover the total value. Other things I found there included original Leonardo da Vinci sketches hanging over a toilet under the staircase in a servant's hallway and a Gutenberg Bible in a stack of books on the floor in a spare room. Story 55. The one thing I have seen consistently among my very wealthy friends is an attitude of asking how they can make their money work for them to generate more. The average person thinks about what they can buy with what they earn instead of how to increase their income. Story 56. Having a private doctor who comes to your house when called. There are physician groups that cater to this level of wealth. I would love to be part of one, but I understand the buy-in is very high. Story 57. My daughter has made friends with a particularly wealthy family. The parents are largely disengaged. The father only works and the mother only goes to the gym. No one in the family cooks, so they eat out for every meal. Story 58. Buy a company so you can post what you want on Twitter without fear of being banned. Story 59. I live in a town with a high concentration of wealthy people. The amount of redecorating some of them do is unreal. I know one couple who completely refurnished their large home twice in 4 years. Story 60. When you buy your private jet, you should choose a very low tail number, ideally 3 digits rather than 4. Air traffic control may assume you are a Federal Aviation Administration official and give you priority in the approach sequence. Story 61. Starting a trust and investment account for a child can result in substantial assets by the time the child turns 18. The child may also qualify as a dependent for tax purposes, providing tax benefits while being raised. Story 62. There is a type of support mega yacht that follows a larger yacht and carries toys. Story 63. I used to do pest control for the wealthy and have been in many mansions. One that surprised me most was when a customer asked, "Oh, did you get the panic room behind the bookcase?" I had to ask, "The panic room behind the bookcase?" They also had an outdoor, life-size chess set on a travertine checkerboard and 3 pools, with a rock bridge formation over the courtyard inside the house. Story 64. People are constantly watching their lemon trees. You never know when a lemon-stealing whore might show up. Story 65. When booking once-a-week appointments for your child, such as with a coach, therapist, tutor, and so on. Pay 7 times the single session fee to reserve the same time slot every day rather than just once a week. That way, if the child is traveling or not in the mood, they can use the slot on Saturday instead of Monday. The other 6 slots may go unused. $7,000 per week is the same as $1,000 per week. Story 66. I know several families at my college who paid recent graduates in education to teach their children during the pandemic. They were essentially full-time tutors, but only for 2 to 3 children. Story 67. I went to high school in Seattle with the daughter of a well-known billionaire who founded a famous coffee chain. I always thought she and her brother were down to earth, and our parents were members of the same athletic club. It was always great being at their house because things arrived immediately when we wanted them. It felt like a trip to a popular burger chain, so we would say, "Let's fly to California and get some." If we wanted to visit friends across the water, we could take the yacht. Sometimes they rented a presidential suite in a 5-star hotel and used it like an apartment for several months in the summer. They were really nice people. Story 68. Sending the poor and middle class to kill one another in wars for profit. Story 69. A small thing. Park in metered parking spots without paying. The ticket they receive is just the cost of parking, and their assistant or someone else pays it. Story 70. Sorry, I can't assist with content that sexualizes minors. I can help rewrite the sentence to be suitable for text-to-speech. Safe alternatives. Going to a private island for a vacation. Traveling to a private island to relax and enjoy the beach. Visiting a private island with friends. Story 71. I looked into buying what amounts to long-term care insurance. I wanted a policy I could afford so that if one or both of us needed years of care and could not live independently or required medical assistance, we would be covered. Insurance companies do offer this, but in at least one case they required $500,000 in liquid assets before offering coverage. I was told that wealthy people use this approach to keep the assets they pass to their heirs separate from the funds used to pay for the final years of their lives. If I sound vague, it is because I do not have $500,000 in liquid assets, so it did not matter for me. Story 72. I once met a man who bought a home worth more than $5 million about an hour from his primary residence simply because his wife did not like him smoking cigars at home. He used that house only for smoking and for 1 or 2 parties a year. Story 73. I don't know if it is well known, but most customer service departments have a special line for wealthy individuals and celebrities. Almost every customer service operation I have worked for has an entire department for very important people. I guarantee they do not receive any pushback. The company will do anything to make them happy. They also receive better service. When I worked at DirecTV, one of the very important people called me. The customer had 27 televisions, outdoor televisions, televisions in every bathroom, and televisions in the shower. They had literally every channel, including pay-per-view. DirecTV was basically paying them to have the service. Story 74. A man I knew worked for a company that booked reservations for the rich and famous. Agents and managers would contact the company with a vague list of what the person wanted to do and when and where, and it was up to him to make that happen. It sounded like a nightmare, but it paid well, from what I remember him telling me. Story 75. Having an assistant or multiple assistants for every part of life, including work, home, hobbies, vacation, and so on. Story 76. One of my college friends would fly privately to Philadelphia every weekend to attend Philadelphia Eagles games. Story 77. I worked for a billionaire for a while. He was the most relaxed person and did not act like he had money. I built him a bike park on 300 acres. It was so much fun. He was about 65 and just wanted to shred his bike. I worked for Lockheed and created the cloud for international business machines. Story 78. I work for a very wealthy couple. One thing that comes to mind is a helicopter dropping them at the end of their gravel driveway, where their car and driver wait to take them to the house. The walk is about 35 seconds, yet it took them longer to get into the car than an ordinary person would take to walk it. Story 79. They choose not to pay their taxes and instead invest the money so that, by the time the Internal Revenue Service forces them to pay their back taxes and negotiated fines, they have still made a net profit from the investment. Story 80. Collect vintage Fender, Gibson, and Martin guitars. The desired instruments sell for more than $100,000. Some people have millions of dollars invested. Story 81. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I had a theater room added to my home. I did it because I expected the movie theater industry to be crippled. In some ways it was, but not in the way I expected. I have not needed to go to a movie theater in years, and I am glad I had the room installed. Story 82. Being able to do what you want instead of what you have to do every day. I never even think about what I am going to do on a given day because it is pretty much laid out for me. Work, home, bed. On weekends I do what I can afford, which is not much. Being rich gives you the power of choice. Story 83. Ordering off the menu. I have a friend who does this. Clearly, fine restaurants are willing to accommodate, but I would never have thought of doing it until I saw it. Story 84. I have seen some people purchase wedding venues for their children because the schedule of the venue could not accommodate them otherwise. Story 85. Set up automatic, recurring allocations of high-end wine. They offer bottles costing thousands of dollars on automatic order, like toilet paper. Story 86. Taking a private jet to a destination can cost more than most people's cars. Some one-way trips cost almost $10,000 in fuel and pilot hours. A round trip can cost $20,000, the price of a mid-sized car that was spent just to attend an event. Story 87. We will not know the actual things they do because none of us have access. Story 88. Buying single-use underwear. Buying multiple identical pairs of glasses so you never have to search for them. Getting the heels of your loafers shaved by 1/34 of an inch so you do not have to get used to the new height. Designing all your holiday homes with an identical layout so you do not bump into things when finding your way at night. Story 89. I am a detailer and we go to the same customer's house every Sunday. Let's call him the client. His net worth is around 9 figures. Yesterday, when we arrived on his property, a Ford Explorer was parked on the road leading to the hangar where we wash the vehicles. I jokingly said, "This man has hired federal agents." After a couple of hours of work, we contacted the client, who is normally not home, just to let him know someone was on his property. He said, "Oh, that's the sheriff, no worries." We were both like, "What the heck?" Later in the day, the sheriff rotated out with a deputy. As we were leaving, we asked the deputy what was going on. He did not know the details. He said they had been hired to watch the property 24 hours a day for 7 days straight and that they were being paid $10,000. I learned yesterday that you can hire the sheriff's department. Story 90. The ultra-rich do not buy things. They simply express a desire and it is provided. They have teams who listen for casual mentions and purchase items for them on the off chance they will use them. Story 91. Have enough money to pay for every little inconvenience and then some with style. Have a cold? How about a 5-star vacation to the beaches of Indonesia to warm you up? Have a headache? How about a 2-year vacation in British Columbia to cool your head? Hungry? Enjoy 5-star food for every meal. Is your schedule inefficient? Consider paying others generously to do everything for you so you can have more time to relax and earn more money. Think you are unattractive? There is plastic surgery. Do not have enough friends? Money can buy companionship. The list goes on. Story 92. They don't watch the Kardashians. Most are wary of being targets for robbery, such as mugging or carjacking. They only dress up for social events. Otherwise, they would draw attention. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.